This video is an update to an earlier video I did, which only showed how to do the annual lubrication of the Precise Flight speed brakes. This video will do that in an easier way and also show how to clean the electric clutch, which is a major source of problems that these speed brakes have. And so the cleaning of the clutch will prevent those problems from happening. We'll start by taking the case off. So now that the case is off, we are going to be taking this vane out, and we're going to leave this vane in. And the first step to taking this out is to take this little clip off that holds the ground wire and the clip that holds the wire for the electric clutch, and disconnect this clock spring, because chances are really good that you'll break the clock spring if you don't disconnect it here. So the clock spring here has been removed, disconnected I should say, and the clip here for the ground wire and the electric wire for the clutch has been removed. The next thing we're going to do is push these vanes up, which are much easier to push now since the one clock spring is disconnected. And then we're going to put a clamp right here, which I'm going to have to do. I'll have to turn the camera off to do it. So the clamp is set like this, or installed like this, because you don't want these vanes to be all the way open like this. You want them to be partially closed so that this cam down here, so that the flat on that cam is in a position that will allow this vane, this other vane, to be uninstalled. If it's not in that position, there's not enough room to get it out of there. The next step is to disconnect this link that goes between the two vanes. Okay, I've disconnected this link from here, and this is the hardware that came off of it. This part right here, this nut, it's obvious which way that goes on if you look at the other end of the link. The head of that goes through the link, and then this washer right here goes between the link and the bearing, and then the screw comes in from the other side. So now the last step in removing this vane is to take this pin out to get the vane and the clutch out of there. So we'll just push with a screwdriver, and then come over to the other side and pull this pin out. Now, there are thrust washers in here in between these frame pieces and the vane itself, and you want to make sure you know where those are and get those back in the same place that they were originally. So now I'm going to take the vane out and show you what that looks like. So this is what it looks like when the vane is out. You can't take it completely out without taking out a bunch of wiring, which is not necessary. So you'll only take it out to the point where this wire will allow you to get to this point, and try not to bend this wire any more than you absolutely have to. Just pull it out, let it sit here, and then put it right back in. So this is the hardware that came out of this hole where the vane was attached and the clutch was attached. And there's two thrust washers. One goes between the clutch and the frame, and the other goes between the vane and the frame on the other side, at least on mine. That's the way it is. So that's the way I'm going to put it back together when I put it back together. Now, the next thing is to pull this clutch apart. You pull it out like this, you turn it over, and you can see there's a spring, a spiral spring in here that winds up and grips this stanchion, or this arbor here, and that's what causes the clutch to lock up and bring the vane up. So what happens is this gets dirty inside of here, and the spring gets dirty, and that causes the clutch to start slipping, which causes it to start acting funny. Either it'll partially come up, or it'll come up and go back down, come back up. It does all kinds of weird things when this clutch is slipping. So now it's time to clean this gear up, clean the worm drive up here up, get all the grease and dirt off of it, and then clean the clutch the clutch guts itself. So I am going to use rubbing alcohol to do the cleaning of the inside of the clutch and to get the grease off later. But while the alcohol is still clean, I'm going to do the inside of the clutch. And this area here in between this arbor and the coil on the clutch is so narrow that I have to take a cotton swab and smash it with a pair of pliers to get it to be thin enough to get it into that area. And so then I'm going to dunk this in the alcohol and then put it into this clutch clear to the bottom, far down in there as you can get, and then go force it around in a circle so that it gets the that arbor clean all the way around. And then I'll do the same thing in here on this coil spring inside of here, and go around and get that cleaned up in there too. So I'll do that. Okay, I did the first clean on this arbor, and that's what I came up with, and that is dirty. That's what causes it to fail. So now I'm going to turn it around, go to the clean side, and do it again. Okay, I've turned this around all the way around this gap. It fits very tight in there even after you smash this swab, and we'll pull it out. And so this is what it was the first time. There's the second time, not perfectly clean. So now I'm going to use the other end of this swab, smash it, put alcohol on it, and do it again until I get it to where I'm not getting any residue. Okay, that's pretty darn good, pretty clean. So now this area in here, that arbor that mates with this spring in here, is pretty darn clean. Came up white swab. So now I'm going to do this one. Okay, the swab came back pretty dirty that time. So now I turn it around and I do it again. And if I have to, I'll use the other end of a new swab to do it until it comes up clean while cleaning this part. Okay, that came out pretty clean doing the inside diameter of that spring. The swab is pretty white, so that's clean enough. Now, one thing I can't stress enough is don't get any grease or any other kind of dirt or impurities in this, on that spring in there, or on this arbor. That has to be a completely dry surface to surface contact there, or you'll get malfunctions. Probably won't even raise at all. So now I'm going to clean the outside of this gear, all the teeth of this gear, and the worm drive up here on the end of the motor. And I'm going to do that with a toothbrush. And I'm going to be very careful to not get any grease in those two areas there. Once that's all clean, I'll be back. Now that both parts of the clutch are cleaned up really well, the teeth are all clean, the inside of the clutch is clean. Now it's time to lubricate this gear with Aeroshell 22 grease, like the manual for the speed brakes calls out. We'll put a light coat of grease on all of these teeth, but not fill them up with grease because it'll just make a mess and it'll be a chance for the grease to get into the clutch. So just a light coat. I'll do that now. Now there is grease down in the bottom of all of these teeth, but none of them are full of grease. That should be sufficient. And I'm not greasing I cleaned, but I'm not greasing the worm drive at all because there's enough grease on all these teeth to make this work for the next couple of years. So now we take this and we put it back into the rest of the clutch. And then the next step will be to start putting things back together. The first thing I'm going to do is get this vein put back into the housing and get this pin and thrust washers back in to hold it in place. And because of the way I've got this vein blocked up in just exactly that position, it just will drop right in. And if I had 3 hands, I'd show you how easy it is, but it does drop right in. And then once this pin is in, then I will do this clip and put the spring back on and put the link back on between the 2 veins. But let's concentrate on just getting the vein in there for now. The next step is to put the vein back in. We will slip it up in there, and with this vein put in this position, the vein that we removed should just go right in without much problem at all. And this little tab down here has a slot in it, and that slot has to go around this screw up in here in order to hold the clutch in place. So that's what we'll do next. We'll put the vein in, make sure that slot is around that screw, and then we will take this pin and these thrust washers and put them back in to hold the vein in, and then I'll be back. So to get this, I've got the vein stuck back into the frame now and the hole is lined up. I have to get these thrust washers in there, and the easiest way to do that is to start from the slotted side hole where the pin goes in, starts in, put the thrust washer here and then work it into the center of the hole. Start the pin in, start this pin in to the hole and through the thrust washer and into the bearing in the vein, then turn it over and do the same thing with the other thrust washer on the other side. Now the vane is back in. It's time to put this little clip back on over here, and it needs to be very clean. This ground needs to be a good ground in order for it to work. So sand or clean up the lug and this surface here and both sides of the clip, and then put that together. So the clip is clean and back in, and the clutch down there, you can't really see it, but the tab on the bottom of the clutch is straddling the screw that comes through the top. And now the only thing left is to put this link in between the two, reattach this link between the two vanes right there. Now the link between the vanes is back on, and we're just going to close the vanes and then reattach the spring, the clock spring down here between the vane and this part here. Okay, the clock spring here is reattached with that screw. Make sure you get this clock spring in there perfectly straight going this way, or it's going to put a torsion on that spring when the vane opens and closes, and it probably will end up breaking that spring over time. So make sure it's nice and straight in alignment with the path of travel. Okay, and the final step is to put the cover back on the outside. And don't try to operate this just for testing without the cover, because the cover is what keeps all of these parts from moving relative to each other, and they will bind if you do this, if you power it without the cover. And I learned that the hard way, so passing that on. Put the cover back on so that the angled part here mates with the angled part here, and this drain tube, the angle cut on the drain tube is toward the aft end of the airplane when you're finished. And there we are, all finished, no parts left over, ready to be reinstalled.